I'll make use of this opportunity, still 3 minutes or so, to see if the speakers go that far that they hear me in the big hall, just to annoy the people and make sure that they're coming here and have a place to sit. Hello. I was going to say good evening, but it's good afternoon. It's just that we don't have windows. Please come in and have a seat. I don't know if there are still many people over there, but we should start about. Okay, good afternoon and a warm welcome to all of you joining us here in Krakow for the 2025 edition of the Copernicus Land Monitoring Service General Assembly, the second session already since we organize it as a full General Assembly. A warm welcome as well to those following us online from across Europe and beyond, because we are streaming this whole assembly, at least the part in the main room here. Last year we gathered in Antwerp, many of you were there as well, and this year we are here in Krakow as we seize the opportunity to be hosted in the EU member state holding the EU presidency, which is Poland, obviously. And we are very glad for the assistance we had from our Polish Copernicus community. This year, we are gathering at a time of major evolutions in Copernicus, as well as in the service, CLMS. And this assembly is a key opportunity to connect, reflect, and to look ahead. A special welcome to our new participants, and of course to our returning members of the CLMS community, which is ever growing, which is good, we like that. I am Tim Lemmens, I'm Policy Officer at the Earth Observation Unit in DG DEFIS, and I will try to guide you through these 2 exciting days. Together with the European Environment Agency and the Joint Research Center, who are our long-standing implementation partners, we've put together a program that touches on the core of CLMS today and tomorrow. So we're about to start. But before I kick the wheels in motion, a quick reminder that this event is being recorded and live streamed on YouTube, that there is Wi-Fi access foreseen. You can find the details posted at the entrance. And don't forget to put your phones in silent mode, because that will improve our experience. And we also invite you, maybe you've seen it already, to share your moments with us on social media. And if you mention the hashtag CLMSGA2025, okay, it's a long acronym, but you know what it stands for, the Land Service General Assembly 25, then your post will show up automatically outside on the big screens in the networking area, and of course also on the social media. You can also share something anonymously on the screens here, and for that you have to scan the QR code, which is showed on one of the big screens that you will find outside. So if you use the QR code, your post will be shared here internally, but not publicly on the social media. So we are especially pleased to start with a video of welcome words by the 2 key representatives of the 2 entrusted entities implementing the Copernicus Land Service. First, we have Alessandra Zampieri, who is director at the Joint Research Center, JRC, that's simpler, at the European Commission.
Dear colleagues, good afternoon from the Joint Research Center side. It is a true pleasure to welcome you today at the second General Assembly of the Copernicus Land Monitoring Service. Here today, we are more than an assembly of experts and stakeholders. We are a community committed to understanding, protecting, and managing in a responsible way the land that sustains us all. The Joint Research Center has conducted research in Earth observation for over 50 years. We have played a fundamental role since the genesis of the Copernicus program in 1998, when it used to be the Global Monitoring and Environment and Security, GMES. Today, the Copernicus Land Monitoring Service is more strategic than ever in its support to environmental and climate policies, not just in Europe, but worldwide. Our ecosystems are facing increasing pressure from urban expansions, agricultural practices, biodiversity loss, and climate extremes. Reliable and monitoring is no longer a luxury. It is a vital necessity. And as co-leaders of the Copernicus Land Monitoring Service, we are fully committed to the growth of this community and its success. We do this by bridging evidence and policy, by connecting Europe and the world, by linking today's challenges with tomorrow's solutions. Copernicus draws its strengths not only from satellite orbiting high above us, but from human collaboration. And here today, we reaffirm our shared commitment to transform raw data into knowledge and to shape knowledge into meaningful action for our future, what is now known as Earth intelligence. I am proud to share one of the highlights of this year's General Assembly, the launch of the new dynamic global land cover and forest monitoring, available at a 10-meter resolution. It offers not only annual data on land cover and change, but also innovative features like detailed tropical tree cover maps and land monitoring updates several times throughout the year. This is a brilliant example of actionable knowledge. This product can generate a global indicator for policymakers to monitor deforestation, but also inform local communities on the best practices to manage their forest resources. Let me invite you to join my colleagues in its dedicated launch event. And now, allow me to conclude by saying that this General Assembly is not merely a moment to reflect on past achievements and launch new products, but a space to anticipate the future. All together, with the EA and DG DEFIS, we are shaping a stronger partnership to reinforce and future-proof the Copernicus Land Monitoring Service. In this cooperation, we envision a more efficient, agile, and adaptable service for a more sustainable and resilient Europe and beyond. I hope you will enjoy Krakow, and now I can only wish you a great General Assembly.
Thank you for that video from Ms. Sampieri, who's already giving us a slight insight of what you will hear more about later, the things to come. Next we have Lina Ylä-Mononen, the Executive Director of the EAA.
Good afternoon, CLMS community. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to the beautiful city of Krakow for the second General Assembly of the Copernicus Land Monitoring Service, CLMS. On behalf of the European Environment Agency, as entrusted entity for the pan-European component of the CLMS, I am delighted to welcome such a diverse group of professionals, experts and stakeholders, all committed to advancing our understanding and management of land in Europe. This year, we are following the presidency of the Council of the EU to Poland, but we are also following in the footsteps of Nicolaus Copernicus, who studied here at the University of Krakow. This place thus represents both the past and the future of the Copernicus Land Monitoring Service. The work of the CLMS has never been more critical. Our land is under growing pressure from urbanization, climate change, agricultural intensification and biodiversity loss. These pressures threaten not only the environment but also the well-being of our communities across Europe. As we face these challenges, the importance of accurate, timely and accessible data has never been clearer. Today, as we gather here for the second General Assembly, we have an important opportunity to reflect on the achievements of the CLMS and also to look ahead to the next steps on our journey. This assembly is not only a forum for knowledge sharing, but it is also a platform for strengthening collaborations, setting new goals, and tackling the challenges that lie ahead. It is through your collective expertise and your commitment to innovation that we can continue to improve the quality of our data, expand the reach of our services, and ensure that the Copernicus Land Monitoring Service remains a powerful tool for sustainable development. The EEA remains fully committed to supporting the CLMS, working together to ensure that the data we provide is used effectively to address pressing environmental challenges. We believe that by fostering collaboration and cross-sectoral partnerships, we can make significant strides towards achieving the EU's environment and climate goals. I encourage each of you to take full advantage of the presentations, discussions, and networking opportunities throughout this event. Your contributions are invaluable in shaping the future of the CLMS, and it is through exchanges like this one that we will continue to advance our shared vision of a sustainable, resilient Europe. Once again, welcome to Krakow, and thank you for your dedication to the work of the CLMS. Let us use this gathering as a springboard for further progress, deeper collaboration, and innovative solutions. Together, we can turn data into action and ensure a sustainable future for all. Thank you.
Thanks to Ms. Ulla Mononen. I have a third speaker, but that's not a video message. So please welcome me on stage, because I have here Colonel Marcin Mazur for you, the Vice President of the Polish Space Agency.
That would be really hard to do without mic. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having me here in Krakow, especially that the topic of data exploitation is really familiar to me since I'm still an active military, now working in a National Space Agency, but my service was connected to geospatial, and I work a service as a geospatial officer as well as imagery intelligence officer. So the topic of use cases and data exploitations are very familiar with for me. But today I would like to touch a bit what we do at the Polish side, from Polish National Agency side, from capabilities from upstream to downstream and from sensors to users. And that is why I will touch the data, the sensors, which includes national plans for development and what we are expecting for, the products and services which we currently produce, the architecture which we already designed with different functionalities, and of course, finally, I will touch the most important part, which are skills and competencies of users and operators. That is why when we talk about upstream, I would like to mention that complementary to Copernicus data, we will have access to national constellations, different ones. The one which is the main source of data for civilian side is the Camila constellation project, which was signed last month during ESA Security Conference in Warsaw, mid of April. Which will consist of 4 satellites, both EO as well as SAR, and we should expect them end of 27. But also, based on our cooperation with MOD, I'm also the outcome of the cooperation as an active military in civilian agency, is the access to different constellations which we are expecting in Poland, starting from 2 satellites, Pleiad Neo, produced by Airbus Space and Defense, but also 2 other constellations which are also mentioned, Piast and Microglobe. Those are either micro or nano satellites constellation. But on the slide, actually, we are lacking the fourth constellation, which contract was signed even last week for micro SAR satellites. And to all of them, we will have access, or the civilian needs will be also passed to us. When we talk about the platform, which we designed and we opened for users almost 2 years ago, we provide different type of functionalities, of course, including data storage, for which we will collect and keep the data from different constellations, products provision, analytical tools, which are also part of the platform, as well as many other support of products for different users. Of course, the platform is going to be the tool between users and sensors, which will help for the customers to use the data. When we go into a deeper bit, I would like to mention about, for instance, geoportal functionalities, about marketplace with sophisticated tools and analytical solutions for different type of users, but also knowledge, since we all know that different type of customers and users have a different level of knowledge. And when we look into some examples, we can share that we have at this moment around 20 products available on our website, which are connected to land, agriculture, urban areas, water or forest, depends on the needs and the requirements coming from public administration. We have more than 300 gigabytes of products and services already collected. And what is the most important, more than 20,000 users already interested in searching and collecting information they are interested in. Apart from the products which are available on the platform, I would like to mention about 2 examples of products which we are preparing for higher resolution data, which will build the knowledge and as well as the platform with the products which will be counterparts of resolutions which we will have with new constellations. But apart from products, we are also designing, and we are expecting with the end of the year the cloud solution with different functionalities, of course, but what is the main important, it will be access to different data from different sensors, from different constellations, just for the users. But what is not so obvious, we are also developing a mobile version of the platform, which will help the users on the ground to collect some additional information, to tag, to correct some information, to provide us feedback from the terrain about differences and needs which goes from the users directly. And finally, what I mentioned at the beginning is the knowledge of users to have the platform used properly, to be used effectively, and to share the information how to do it properly. That's why we also organize different type of trainings connected to different area of interest of administration and centers, and adjusted to the needs and requirements. And more or less that's it from my side. I'm really happy to be in Krakow at the General Assembly. I hope you will have a good and effective time at the General Assembly, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Colonel Mazur. I don't know, we have a few minutes for questions. I don't know if there are questions, if you take questions, of course. Are there questions in the room for our last speaker? Nothing? Voila. That's an invitation to go and discuss whatever you like afterwards. Okay, good. Then thank you for your warm welcome and for this very interesting presentation of what is happening on the Polish side of land monitoring. Meanwhile, or not meanwhile, we continue with 2 other presentations. For the first one, I will remain on stage, and I will invite Ushue Donethar and Andreas Brink here as well to discuss to outline the key goals and structure of the CLMS evolution, and to give a short overview of what will happen next. Good, good, good. So, Ushue, Andreas, let's start with introducing yourself. I'm, by the way, Tim Lemmens. I quickly said that I'm from DG DEFIS. I am working in the Earth Observation Unit, and I'm dealing with the land service and with the in situ component, which is the reason why I am here and why I am guiding together with you this event. But Andreas.
Okay, thank you, Tim, and hello and welcome to everybody. It's really nice to see many familiar faces, but also a lot of new faces, which is a good thing because it means we are reaching out to new colleagues and CLMS friends. So my name is Andreas Brink. I'm from the Joint Research Center of the European Commission. I'm co-leading the CLMS, so I'm responsible for the global component. And yeah, I'm at the JRC since quite some years. I received this year my 20 years medal, so it's been quite a journey, but quite an exciting journey. Before that, I worked for some years at the FAO. I'm happy to see good old friend and colleague here as well. Yeah, and always focusing on Earth observation, on natural resources, sustainable development, with a specific focus on global and issues in Africa specifically. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Welcome also from my side. Very happy to be here, I have to say. So my name is Ushue Donethar. I am the project lead. I am co-leading the Land Monitoring Service at the European Environment Agency, where we are focusing on the European part of the land service. So we are producing the products within the EA 38 plus the UK. So a little bit about me, by the way, now that you mentioned the 20 years, and I see here there's a former colleague of mine. I would have made 20 years in my previous company before joining the EA. So I guess I missed the opportunity to get a watch, which is what you get, but okay, never mind. I don't know if I will get something at the EA. Anyway, so I joined the EA only in 2021. I'm pretty new to this European agency ecosystem type of activities. And I have mainly my experiences on the management of Earth observation related projects.
Thank you. Well, and before we dive into the substance of the story, if tonight you're at the social dinner and you don't know what to say anymore, it's always interesting to ask your counterpart with whom you're having some nice something to eat, to tell something that you didn't know about him or her. Something could be personal, something related to work or not, but it's always nice to get the conversation going in a completely different direction. So that's why I will do that as well for you, Andreas. And of course, now it's not somewhere at the dinner stand, but it's for this full audience. But what can you relieve or tell of yourself?
So something that people want to know but never dare to ask, something like that. Thank you. No, it's actually quite funny because we are both co-leading the land service, but we have also both a common interest, and that's photography. And since I was a teenager, I had this big passion in photography, and already at that time, my big hero was famous photographer Ansel Adams, big landscape, and he was really my inspiration. And now I relate my photography also to my work. I'm very fascinated by a photographer called Brent Stirton. He works a lot on conservation issues, on social issues, and sometimes I connect to him when maybe we work on the same areas. I got to know him through the Virunga National Park in DRC, and yeah, from time to time I use my images also for presentations, reports, or.
Yep. I have the same, and I also use my photographs, although sometimes my colleagues don't like them so much, but okay. So in my case, the interest for photography comes from the fact that I spent so many years in drawing lessons, and then I realized drawing takes more time to capture the moment, so I went for photography. And in my case, there are two photographers which I really like. One is Spanish, so I go national here, and it's Gervasio Sanchez, who is a war reporter. I like him because he makes, even if it's about war and about victims of mining, I think he shows a lot of empathy. And the other one is one I discovered not so long ago, and it's Vivian Mayer, who was a photographer, an American photographer, and she got more famous once she passed away, and she was always doing these photos of very small things, like very day-to-day things. And I really like, because somehow you give importance to everyday life. So those are the two I like, and I have to say that as much as the GRC is on a larger scale, your photographies are also on a larger scale and much better than mine, I have to say, but okay.
Well, thank you. That's things I will look up then. Rest assured, I am not a photographer. I cannot take good pictures. I appear on pictures every now and then. Yeah, and because I had to give some story as well, if ever you go to the Gallo-Roman Museum in Tongeren in Belgium, which is a very nice museum, I can really recommend it, you will see some promotional material left and right where I am appearing as an actor or whatever. So anyway, that was not important. Let's
of a model then.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. This had to be here already, I think. No. Okay, too late. So this was about the General Assembly of last year. For the ones who were not there, you can see it was very interesting. This one will be more interesting, of course. But what I wanted to show you is this. I wanted to ask Ushue and Andreas about the milestones of last year. But before that, we have a small question for you, so you can start becoming active as well. We have a small Slido question, which is as follows. What word best defines CLMS in your opinion? So one word, or maybe 2 words if it's too short. You can fill it in on the Slido with the code that you see on the slide or with the QR code that you see on the slide. And we would be very interested to know what you think. Okay. What happened during last year? From the point of view of DEFIS, a lot happened as well, of course, because we continue the implementation of the current MFF. And this MFF is now over halfway, which means that we are looking at the next MFF to prepare that already. But in the past year, between this General Assembly and the last one, we had a few launches, and we still have 4 launches this year in 2025 as well. So a lot is being put in the space for Copernicus. And that also benefits this community because, as you probably know, in the meantime, there is a 3rd Sentinel-2 satellite in the air, and we managed to give the first one, Sentinel-2A, a longer lifetime, which means that for the time being, we have 3 Sentinel-2 satellites in operation, which improves the coverage and the frequency and so on. We know that it's very important for the land community. Also, Copernicus in general, last year we had UK joining, now we have Ukraine joining. So again, our community is growing. I don't think it is the case now, but maybe next General Assembly we will have Ukrainian colleagues as well in our audience. And there are many other things, but I will leave the floor to you now to see what you have as milestones. Ushue.
Okay, for us, I would like to highlight 3 topics and actually a 4th one that I didn't include in the slide. First, it's more related in general to the user uptake efforts. We launched in 2024 the National Collaboration Program, to which 5 countries joined. I think it is one of those parts or one of those legs that shows how we are trying to increase our efforts in user uptake and how we are trying to support countries also to uptake our products, but also in a continuous type of in a continuous cycle of improvement, also gather their input from the improvement of the service. And one aspect of the user uptake, of course, it's being able to inform or to help users use our products. And a good example of that is the Copernicus Observia that is going to be launched in this General Assembly. I think it's a very good example also on how from an idea which was in the beginning not very big, it grew to have all the Copernicus services on board. And I think it's also a good example of how the service, the CLMS service, can also lead this type of activities. I would like to highlight, just to finish, 2 other milestones. First, and this is the one I forgot to include, is the launch of the high-resolution layer vegetated land cover characteristics products. They have been waited and for a long time wanted by our users, and we know that we had some issues publishing them, but they are already published, at least the first batch, and we are now progressing in the production of the next years. And we have built a validation framework for the whole portfolio, which is also something that was missing in the past. And I think that will give the portfolio of CLMS a big consistency. So we are first doing it for the EA, and then we will also share that with the GRC in the future.
Thank you. Yeah, and a lot of launches this General Assembly. I think it's quite a record. And another one is the CDSC. So we are live, I think we can say. First of all, with the global part. So we decided to start with a global component, also because we had a necessity there. So we are somehow the guinea pigs in trying out the onboarding of our global products on the CDSC. We will have a very dedicated session on this during the General Assembly. Then another one, which people may think, oh, it's not so relevant, who's going to use that, is the top of canopy reflectance, but it's, you know, beyond scientists, it's really relevant for all our vegetation products. So we are reprocessing the entire Sentinel-3 time series and to get really, let's say, a kind of a clean set of vegetation products, which we can then better calibrate with the Proba-V sensor also to get really a proper time series there. Next one is also a launch. My director announced this already, is LCFM, the Land Cover Forest Monitoring product. I would say something really big. We have a presentation, you know, just after this, so I won't say anything more. And last but not least, I'm also very happy that hotspot monitoring is let's say, live again. It took some time, but we have a signed framework contract. We have the next areas to map. We are really ready to kickstart there as well. Thank you.
Okay, so LCFM, TOC-R, CDSE. I know we use a lot of acronyms, and I think 80% of the people here know what we're talking about, but don't hesitate. If you don't know an acronym, it's not your fault, it's the fault of the person using the acronym. So just ask, or ask us if you don't find anybody. We are happy to help you. I wanted to ask you, Ushwe, about something that would be very interesting, I think, for many people in the audience, about the new joint calls that you're going to launch.
So in the last year, we started this process of having more joint calls, EEA, GRC. So this means that we establish a framework contract. So each entity establishes a framework contract with the service provider to produce whatever. In the past, the first time we tried it was with the communication and user uptake contract, because we knew that there would be a lot of synergies if we would be using the same framework contracts, because you have the same service provider, so you get the same expertise and so on and so forth. And also it's easier to have something consistent and coherent if you have it under the same umbrella, to be said. Now, what we are working is more and more to have this type of approach, where we would have joint calls to produce those products that are more similar. So the idea, the rationale behind is, okay, we always say that we are one service, and I think this is a good example of we need to more and more do this. So products that are more or less similar will get the same service provider, and then hopefully we will find more synergies. I will put you an example. The validation contract could benefit from that. The vegetation contracts could also benefit from that. So in those cases where the product in the portfolio is similar, I think that is really interesting, and also for our service providers that I see that there are representatives here to know, because I think that in this way we can also help develop the market segment in the CLMS.
Thank you. So that's something you will really see more often in the future as well. Then Andreas, something I have to ask you, because you're from JRC, and in JRC you also have the KCO, the Knowledge Center on Earth Observation. Can you tell us a bit more about the role of KCO for the land service?
Yeah, thank you, Tim. So KCO, yes, another acronym, of course. We're good at that. It's actually managed both by JRC and DigiDefis. And what's, let's say, the purpose of the KCO? It is somehow an interface between the policy DGs and the services. So to really link better what we do within the Copernicus services with the policies, with finally the end users. And for CLMS, this is of course also really relevant, and it's also, we will learn more later, but it's one aim to be really more relevant for policies, really more linked. And the KCO is doing specific so-called deep dives to understand better the needs of policies. They interact with, in this case, the land service, then to whatever fine-tune the products or discuss about the needs for evolutions or new products even. At the GRC, we are lucky. They are sitting really next door to me, so we have a very good connection there. But I think it's something which is really needed and will, there's a lot of work that is happening right now in view of the next phase of Copernicus.
Yes, and I can confirm that. And we're really happy. I guess there are people here involved in KCO or following online, whatever. So we're very happy with their support. Then I have a next question for you. What were the highlights of last year, or last year, since the last General Assembly and now? Who first?
Okay, maybe, but this is also it has a personal component because I was the one going there. But it was actually the land service who was invited to the Sentinel-2C launch. So I don't think it was a personal invitation. That's what I want to say. But I think it does show how, because the Sentinel-2 is the land satellite. And I think this was the fact that we were represented there. It is what really shows. I mean, currently, most of our portfolio at EEA is created over Sentinel-2 data. We also have some products that are created over Sentinel-1, and also, of course, we have the VHR coverage that is acquiring every 3 years. But Sentinel-2 is fundamental for our portfolio, and I think that's one of the interesting maybe one of the major highlights that we have.
In fact, also for the global component, in fact, it's becoming more and more relevant. Yeah, from my side, I think we both, or the whole team, has been very busy and active in increasing, our outreach activities. Both from global to local. We have been present at 2 COPs of the UNCBD in Cali in Colombia, with side events, in participation in dialogues at the UNCCD in Riyadh, again organizing side events there. We just, produced for them a new LPD, land productivity layer. So we're very involved in this global forums. Last week, of course, the Geo Forum. A lot of us were present there. But also, of course, also in Europe, high presence there at the ESA workshops. We have colleagues here, also at more national forums and workshops. So I think we really increased in this activity, and it's also needed. It's, of course, a big effort, but it's really part of an operational service.
Indeed. And then I see still one very interesting one, or 2 very interesting points on the slides. The CLMS retreat, where I was also allowed to participate, and you see a few pictures. And to solve the mystery of the socks, many of you probably asked well, it was simple. You see the stage there, we had to sit on that without shoes. So it was a very cozy retreat. It was very productive in the end because it removed some barriers. We had very good discussions there, and we interacted a lot. So the JRC colleagues and the EEA colleagues and DEVIS. And together with that, we're also working more and more, coordinating more and more with other interested entities. And it's something I really see improving in the last years, but here for sure, especially in the preparation of the next MFF. You see that we are all going for the Copernicus message, and we are trying to make one Copernicus consolidated story. Then I have to continue about them. Next MFF. So as I mentioned in the introduction already, this multi-annual financial framework, which is the 7-year rhythm of the Commission, of the financing of the Commission, is ending in 27, and we have to decide on the next 7-year period, the next MFF starting in 28. This is important for Copernicus because Copernicus is really linked and locked to that framework. So where are we now with Copernicus? We are, in a certain sense, very lucky that Copernicus is so important and is still considered as a flagship program or a flagship component of the EU space program. We are still the most successful Earth observation program in the world. Even our American colleagues confirm that. And even with the recent evolutions across the ocean, this is becoming more and more important. So there is a clear will and a clear urgency to support Copernicus and to keep that program ongoing. Of course, there is also next to that the EU governmental service, which is not focusing on the environment part, but more the governmental part. This will also become, or is becoming, more and more important. It will be linked to Copernicus, but it's not under Copernicus. Concretely, we are preparing for the next MFF in DEFIS. We are gathering requirements. We have discussed them with the interested entities. We have put them all in a big document or a few documents, the famous non-papers. And currently they are being put in the bigger story of drafting the new MFF. The Earth observation will certainly be important in that one. How it will look like in the end, I mean, when this MFF is really agreed upon and signed, which is in 2 years or so, that we cannot know yet. We know that Earth observation will be important, not only because of this governmental service, but also because Copernicus is growing. We have these expansion missions. We have these next generation missions. They have to be operational in the next MFF because starting 28 to 34, that's still a long time ahead. So we have to foresee the budget for that. And linked to this, what's also happening in DEFIS is that the new Space Act is being drafted. That's something you will hear more about in the coming months. I also cannot tell you all the details about it, apart from the fact that it will be a wider scope than what is currently the EU space regulation. But Copernicus will also will find its spot in that Space Act. Hopefully next year, more news. But don't go away yet, because we have other interesting things first. I'll give you the floor.
Thank you. I will take it. So, in the scope of in the frame of this exercise that DEFIS is leading, we were requested to create the top three priorities for the next Copernicus, so Copernicus 3.0. Related to what Andreas was talking about before, so the role of KCO, of the Knowledge Center on Earth Observation, one of the key priorities of the Land Service is to increase our policy relevance. And this not only relates to the KCO, but also relates to, for instance, the National Collaboration Program. So when we talk about increasing the policy relevance, it's also about supporting countries with policies that might come, and also to take on board what KCO would tell us. They are now currently creating a big overview of all the policies that involve all the services, and this is all. So sometimes when we see these things, we see them scattered. Like, okay, we are coordinating with entrusted entities. The Knowledge Center is working on their side. We are doing the National Collaboration Program, but we are actually, everything comes under the same umbrella of the evolution of the service. I will give you the floor for the second.
Thanks. Yeah, second point. Copernicus and, of course, our land service is, first of all, about operations continuity. This is really relevant because we are a service. But then, of course, we have to remain state of the art. No? We have to evolve, we have to adapt to new policy needs, and we have to look at new technologies, new data. And this, of course, in the view of the next phase, is really a key topic now. So we are looking, of course, and we're doing this already now, working with machine learning, AI, latest technologies. We are very much looking into the new Copernicus expansion missions and how we can eventually integrate this information in our services. Personal view, we don't have to look always only forward, but also backwards to be able to back process, to get a longer time series of data, because this is what many users need, especially at the global scale. So I think there's a lot of opportunities and certainly also challenges, but that's what Copernicus is about.
Thank you. And on the data access?
Yeah, I can go on that. So, but just to complement what you were saying, one of the major challenges we find is to increase our policy relevance also means giving this continuity to our products, which is somehow there are two forces that are driving in different directions. So first, being updated in integration of new data and methodologies, and on the other hand, ensuring that there is coherence and consistency with the whole time series and reprocessing if needed. So this is something that we are now assessing how to make sure that those threads can go in parallel if needed, or if one should be prioritized, but hopefully they should go in parallel. And last, on the data access and distribution of products, this is also related to user uptake. Our users will not be able to use the products if they are not findable or if they are not usable. So I think we have put the first steps by the migration to the Copernicus data space ecosystem. As Andrea said, the GRC was the guinea pig for that. Which always entails some challenges. And now the European Environment Agency is continuing, and of course, because we are the first ones, it's not only that we are migrating our data, we are also making sure, or we are contributing to the evolution of the Copernicus data space ecosystem, which is also interesting for when we talk about the relevance of the land service.
Just to add on that, I think this is valid for the Copernicus ecosystem as a whole. So this is a nice example where the land service is coming together, and with the same technology, the same platform, we are distributing our data. And this is what we should aim for Copernicus as a whole, that we are more interoperable, that users don't have to go there or there or there. The Copernicus hubs are a first step. I think we have to review this and eventually see how to even improve this. At the end it's about user uptake, as you said, to make it easy and straightforward. Scientists, they always find their ways, their data, but other users don't even have the time maybe. It has to go quick.
Okay, thank you. So those were only 3 big priorities. The non-paper, as we called it, contains a lot more information, a lot more content still. The other non-papers from the other entities or other services also contain a lot of information, and as I said, we're all ingesting this to go forward with Copernicus. Meanwhile, what we are really looking forward to is the answers of your input. And you have been very, very productive. It's nice. Monitoring is a big one, that's true. It's in our name, so that's good.
The name defines what it is. That's always a good thing.
Operational, that's what we should stand for. Relevance, policy relevance, we talked about that. Then, of course, some of the key products.
Quality and reliable. Yeah. It's related to operational as well to me. for me, it's a very important one for the land service, because we often are compared with other products or other services, and they say, yeah, but it's not real time. No, it's not, because it's a very, very high quality product, and you don't just create that in half an afternoon. So
Interesting that there's one that says not forward-looking. I think that that's related to what you just explained, Tim. And also to the need. I mean, it's true that this is not the first time we hear this, but I think that we are operational, and in that sense, we do operations, and that means that by the time something gets into our portfolio, is because it can be done operational, and that sometimes makes us not be as responsive as other people would like us to be.
I like that comment. It's good to have also kind of critics and not forward-looking. I see this also as being a bit going into the modeling or into the predictions. And in fact, it's something we are thinking about for the next phase. So it's good that we have that there.
okay, you see it's still live, so even if you enter a word now, it's still relevant. I don't know if there is a next slide.
EU hydro is very popular.
Thank you, but I will leave the word cloud on, because you never know that there are some very popular words growing and growing and growing. But we still have like 5 minutes left. Are there any questions from the audience for our two service managers? Yes.
Thank you, three guys, for kicking off this event. I'm Stefan from the Eagle Group, and I would like to point at the elephant in the room, which is the withdrawal from the United States from international collaboration activities. So you can choose from between your personal view on it, or what do you think is the consequence on pan-European land monitoring strategies and activities?
Maybe I can start, because it's of course very much relevant to the global monitoring, to some specific in Africa, for example, and we have a whole community here. I think they can really tell you what it means, withdrawal of big money from some of the development projects or some of the services in agriculture monitoring, for example. So it is definitely a crisis. And on the other hand, it's an opportunity for us in a way. We should be able to step in even more. We are, of course, very much present in the global community and with all the African colleagues. But of course, it's not that easy to do it just in real time. So it's a process there to maybe take up things that where the Americans are, stepping back a little bit. But let's see. Maybe there are also first signs where maybe they are switching on again some of the services, where they're coming slowly back. But it's a big issue. For example, also for the in situ, within one of the services where at the global scale we're looking at validation, calibration. A lot of the stations are in the US. Luckily, so far, they are still operational, but it's, of course, a risk, which then would affect some of our indicators and variables.
Yeah, I was going to highlight the impact on in situ. Maybe for the products that we are doing right now at the European Environment Agency, it's not immediate impact. But I know that it does have an impact, and I can give the floor afterwards to Tim on that, on other Copernicus services as well, and on in situ that is being, that is managed at the EA. So we are now seeing what the impact is, and how if there are opportunities, as he was saying, to see if we can overcome the situation.
Well, I mainly wanted to say that, and indeed, I don't know if Jose Miguel is already
There.
in the room. There he is. I'm sure he wants to discuss in length with you after the session about this. He is doing a great job in compiling which problems we now see appearing related to in situ, and there are quite a few, I can tell you, and if we can do something about it. So we're really following up and really want to do something for it if we can do it. Yes. I don't know. Are there other questions? Yes.
Carsten Brockmann, Inland Water Service. You mentioned quite a number of very good and important things which have to be done or maybe will be done in addition to what you're doing. You mentioned at the end modeling, maybe something you're thinking about. We have the expansion missions to be integrated, prepared. We have Sentinel-2A in addition to the other ones, which gives us more data. Does the Land Monitoring Service have enough budget now and in the future to finance all these great opportunities?
Well, in our opinion, no. That's what we are negotiating, and we want to negotiate now with DEFIS. Because indeed, so the land service is one of the few that I think, or if not the only one, that it's based on observations and not so much on modeling. But we know that we need to make that step or that jump, if you want to call it. And for that, we need, so while at the same time we give continuity to the whole portfolio we have, which is quite substantial. So it is true that it is something that if we want to have a better or an evolved service, then this investment also needs to be done. I agree.
Yeah, just comment from my side. I definitely would agree because, yeah, we are not a static service which is just about delivering a few vegetation variables. It's this grow, and it goes hand in hand with the need for growing also the resources. The advantage, of course, in a way, we are now working really as one service, so the team is a little bit bigger in a sense, but there are really new dimensions coming in, and
and we should never forget that for us to be able to get there, we also need probably more resources in situ. Because for these methodologies to be integrated, we need more in situ data. So yes, it's also true that we are a bigger team, very cohesive, I would say. So that helps, of course, but we have the resources we have indeed.
You shouldn't look at me. I will pass the message. But I agree, for sure. And it's not only the new source data you mentioned, it's not only the modeling, it's also the number of products which is increasing, because we see more and more that the policy side is requesting very specific products, whereas in the past the land service was producing products based on the data that was available, and it was a logic step. Now the land service should produce products which are really needed for EU policy. So there are still a number of products coming that way. You said, Ujue, that sometimes we have to discontinue products, but I think there are many more products that will be added. It's also the territory. Okay, we have the global products which are global anyway, but there the resolution is now improving for some. For the European products, if you have, if we can welcome new Copernicus members like Ukraine, you know Ukraine is not a small country, so again, that adds up. And yeah, we certainly fight for a reasonable budget in the next MFF. There you have the word again. And I hope that you will push that again together with us via your national delegates or via whatever channels you have.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So the countries they have a very important role there. So because they are in the Copernicus governance bodies. So it is also from their side to insist on what they would like to get from the services.
Okay, still other questions? Yes, there we have a question. That will be the last one, unfortunately, because then we have to go to the next session.
Okay, hi, Jeff Smith here. Thanks very much. It's an interesting discussion. I want to take you back to that first question about where you answered about photography. And I think we can probably all agree that photography is a really established way of recording the natural world and the real world around us. How far do you think we still have to go before people see Copernicus as also being the default way of recording and measuring the changing environment?
I think in some cases it is. Like I just mentioned one for the UNCCD, so the Convention on Desertification, and the indicator on SDG 1531 on the land productivity. The default data set comes basically from Copernicus, or the variables, the vegetation variable, and then we produce at the JRC the LPD, the land productivity dynamics. So in that sense, it's already a default data set. And especially, talking for the global dimension, SDG reporting conventions, I think it could and should be much more, because Copernicus is about this operational system, consistency, and open free, of course, but then also quality controlled, validated. And this is quite key for this, homogeneous SDG reporting. I don't know, for Europe.
Well, at European level, it's a completely different thing. No? Most of the countries that we are mapping, I say most because that is not so in all cases, they have their national mapping agencies, and of course they have data that it's probably it's better in a way, in the sense that it's maybe it has a better spatial resolution, or they have access to data that we don't have access to. That's a good example of the Corinne Land cover, for instance. Why we are doing it in the way we are still doing it is because the countries have access to data that we don't have access to. But I think that with the changes in or how the new policies are being presented or are being drafted, gives us also the opportunity to the Land Service to be seen more and more as this default, as you were mentioning, especially the land, because of course other Copernicus services they are there as well. But we know, or at least it's my perception, that the Land Service, especially the European one, is not still there. But I think that in the next Copernicus phase, so in the next MFF, I think that we will get there. So it's still a small step that we need to give, but I think we are just about to give it.
Thank you, and thanks, Jeff, for this nice question, which wraps up the session very nicely, reflecting to the beginning. Thanks, Ushwe and Andreas. We will go to the next session, so you can relax a bit again. So, now let's explore the status and roadmap of the CLMS portfolio itself. A presentation which I already had a sneak peek at, and I like it very much, I must say. The session will present recent developments, ongoing work, and how the evolving portfolio aligns with European and global policy needs. And this will be brought by two persons from EEA and GRC. Joanna Priskavska, I promised I was going to pronounce it correctly, but I can't. She's CLMS expert from the EEA, and Ruben Urraca Valle, scientific officer at the GRC.
Thank you very much, Tim. And hello to everyone. Serdecznie witamy w Krakowie na Copernicus Land Monitoring Service General Assembly. I am Joanna Przystawska from the European Environment Agency.
I am Ruben Urraca from the Joint Research Center.
And now we will dive into a sneak peek of our CLMS portfolio. This will be really like a speed dating with our products. So we only have 30 minutes and many products to cover. So there will be other opportunities to go deeper, discuss with us. So let's now move on to our presentation. First, just a brief introduction. In the CLMS, we have 6 different categories of products. We have the first one on the top left, land cover and land use mapping. These are full coverage land classification products with different level of detail produced in global and pan-European context. The second one, priority area monitoring. These are more detailed and tailored land cover, land use products produced for specific areas of interest in Europe and globally. The third one, satellite data. These are satellite image mosaics produced from Sentinel-2 and Copernicus contributing missions CCM data. The fourth one, biogeophysical parameters. These help us to monitor dynamics of vegetation, water bodies, and the terrestrial cryosphere variables. The fifth one, ground motion monitoring. These monitor natural and anthropogenic motion of ground with millimeters of accuracy. And the last one, reference and validation data. This helps us to create reliable products and services.
During the presentation, you will be able to read information about the spatial and temporal extent of our products, their spatial and temporal resolution, the primary satellite sensor use as an input, but we will focus particularly on the main applications and use cases of each product. And now, Joanna will start with the first category, which is land cover and land use mapping.
Yes, so land cover, and before I go into the details, I just want to briefly mention the structure of this slide, because each of our slides will more or less follow the structure. So in the green boxes, you can see the name of the products, the name, and then there is the resolution for a raster and the minimum mapping unit for vector products. Then you can see the update cycle and then the time series available. You can also see the 2 logos, the pan-European one and the global one. That means the area of interest that the product is produced. Then there is also the satellite logo with input the source data from which the product is created. Sometimes there is also this yellow-orange box with some information about the product being soon available or updated. Then we, of course, have also examples of our products, so the images with a legend as well. And then on the bottom, in the gray boxes, you can see the brief description of product use. So for Europe, we have examples of 2 products here. Corinne Land Cover, our oldest product that is celebrating this year 35 years anniversary. We produce it with 100-meter resolution for raster and 25 hectare for vector data. We also have CLC Plus backbone product with 10-meter resolution, updated every 2 years. And you can see here an example of CLC with 44 classes map for land cover and land use for the whole Europe. And now with the global products.
At global scale, our current operational land cover is at 100 meters from Proba B, but as already anticipated by Alessandra and Andreas, this year it will, and during this assembly, it will be officially released the new land cover and forest monitoring at 10 meters, and you will have more information about this product in a specific talk later this afternoon. And regarding the applications of land cover is used in a wide variety of satellite retrieval algorithms and land surface model to monitor things such as forests, crops, biodiversity, or climate, where land cover has been defined as an essential climate variable by GECOS.
And now we go to non-vegetated layers produced for a pan-European area. In previousness, here you see example of 2 products. On the left, there is a ceiling density provided with 10-meter resolution updated every 3 years. And on the right, there is a build-up product that provides us the binary information about the presence of above-ground building constructions. So here, actually, these examples are shown for Kraków. With this product, you can monitor urban expansion and its environmental effects, and it can serve as input for urban planning, infrastructure development, and environmental assessment. Then we go to our vegetated layers produced for Europe. As Ursula mentioned, we have quite impressive portfolio. First, the tree cover and forest products. So we have three main layers, products that are displayed here: tree cover density, dominant leaf type, and forest type, all with 10-meter resolution. And these products are monitoring Europe's tree cover and forest dynamics and health. And they can serve as input for different EU policies and regulations, forest management, land use monitoring, and climate change mitigation actions. Two other vegetated products, grasslands and croplands. Here, there are plenty of products that you can check on our website. I will only mention the novelties. So for grassland, we actually have the new layer recently, grassland mowing. And for croplands, we got crop types, harvesting, and fallow land. Here there are two examples of grassland with 10-meter, now updated every year. And on the right, you can see crop types with 10-meter resolution, also as a vector product with 0.25 hectare minimum mapping unit updated yearly that gives us information about 19 different classes of crops. So these products are serving as input for researchers, policymakers, farmers, and other interested stakeholders that are analyzing European grassland ecosystem and also agricultural landscape. Another product, Small Landscape Features, is a family of different products produced for pan-European region. We have a small woody feature product that is produced based on very high resolution optical data that comes with a high resolution, 5-meter resolution for a raster product, and also we produce it as vector product. These products give us information about trees, hedgerows, and vegetation patches. From this year, we also started producing a woody vegetation layer that will be published on the CLMS portal soon. It's already in the process of publication. And this gives us information about all trees layer, with exception of vineyards. So this product is serving as input for biodiversity, land management, and also different climate mitigation actions across Europe. And now we are going to the second category, priority area mapping. So we have 4 different products here. All are vector products with half a hectare mapping minimum unit. First one, coastal zones, updated every 6 years, gives information about 71 thematic classes of European coast areas with inland depth of 10 kilometers. So this can serve as input for decisions about coastal ecosystem management, land use planning, or disaster management. Then we have riparian zones, 55 thematic classes for floodplain characteristics and ecosystem of selected rivers across Europe. Here the use cases are, for instance, informed policy decisions related to European waterways and restoration of freshwater ecosystems. Then we have Urban Atlas. This is the family of different products. Here there is an example of Urban Atlas with 17 thematic classes that is covering biggest cities in Europe. So there are 788 functional urban areas across Europe that we are mapping. And this can serve as input for urban planners to make decisions about green spaces, transportation networks, or emergency response plans. And finally, we have protected areas, also 55 thematic classes for grassland rich Natura 2000 sites that are protected under European Union's Habitats Directive. So this can serve as input for informed conservation decisions, policies, and increase accountability for land managers.
And at global scale, we have the hotspot monitoring, which includes two main components. The one presented in this slide is the land cover component, which provides land cover and land cover change information at 30 meters in different priority areas, which are mainly located in Africa. And this information is used to manage biodiversity conservation and rural development. And the main novelty here is that during this year, we are launching the phase 2 of the hotspot monitoring. One of the main novelties of the phase 2 is that it will include a new alert system. And the second component of the hotspot monitoring is Copernicus for GeoGlam, which provides information about crop type at 30 meters for different countries in Africa. And this information is used as baseline data in these countries to improve their agriculture monitoring systems. And now we will continue with the third category of our data sets, which is satellite data.
And first, very high resolution mosaics. As I mentioned, they are created based on Copernicus contributing missions, so data of 2 to 4 meter resolution, updated every 3 years. So these provide comprehensive, seamless, and cloud-free mosaics over Europe. And they serve as an input for different CLMS products, production, but also validation, also environmental monitoring, urban planning, or policy making.
And at global scale, we have the Sentinel-2 Global Mosaic, or S2GM, another acronym, that offers two types of mosaics, the predefined mosaics that are presented in this slide. We have on the left the annual mosaics for every European country, and we can see the one for Poland. In the center of the slide, we have the quarterly mosaics for RED+ areas. And on the right, we have the recently launched global mosaics for also quarterly for different tiles of the world. But the S2GM also provides on-demand mosaics, which allow users to adapt the characteristics of the mosaic for their specific needs, for instance, by selecting a specific composite period that can change from 1 day to 1 year. There are two main tools. One is the temporal mosaic tool that provides mosaics on surface reflectance, albedo, LAI, and FA-PAR for quantitative analysis. And a second tool called Bright Earth that provides RGB or RGB plus near information mosaics for illustrative purposes. And now we will go into the third category, the fourth category of our products, that are the biophysical parameters that are organized in different thematic groups, and we will start with the vegetation. In vegetation, as already introduced by Andreas, all of our current operational products at global scales are based on Sentinel-3 top of canopy reflectance, and here we have two main novelties. The first one is that the Sentinel-3 top of canopy reflectance has been made publicly available to our users, so they can make use now of this dataset that include the 15 Olchi bands and 5 SLSTR bands. And the second novelty is that this is a reprocessed version that has improved the temporal consistency with PROBA-B. So from now to the end of the year, we will reprocess also our whole portfolio of vegetation parameters at global scale to improve the temporal consistency of our vegetation time series and to better improve the monitoring the climate trends of those parameters. So in vegetation, we provide vegetation indices such as NDVI or the plant phenology index, and also vegetation variables such as F-cover, FA-PAR, and the leaf area index. On the left, you can see the European products that are derived from Sentinel-2 at 10 meters, and they are available at near real time, which means that they are released from 3 to 12 hours after the sensing time. And on the right, you can see the global products. And here we have two types of global products. The historical time series at 1 kilometer since 1999, and then our current operational products based on Sentinel-3 at 300 meters. All of these variables allow us to monitor different aspects of vegetation, such as productivity or health, and also to monitor the climate change impacts of on vegetation, such as, for instance, the so-called global greening. At global scale, we also offer a gross and net primary production. And again, we have the long time series at 1 kilometer and the operational product at 300 meters based on Sentinel-3. And both the gross and net primary production can be assimilated into land surface models to improve the accuracy of the productivity estimates of these models. One of the other novelties of this part of the portfolio is that in Q4 of this year, there will be a release of a new product on evapotranspiration based on Sentinel-3 at 300 meters. And this product will allow users to better monitor the hydrological and energy cycles, for instance, for applications such as irrigation planning or reservoir management. At the end of the vegetation season, we also released the land surface phenology products. We have one at European level based on Sentinel-2 and so at 10 meters, and another one at global scale using Sentinel-3 at 300 meters. And the land surface phenology includes around 13 parameters with different characteristics of the previous vegetation season, such as the start or the end of the vegetation season. And this is very important to monitor how the vegetation cycles are changing in time and how they are affected by climate change impacts. And finally, the last product of the vegetation part is the burnt areas product, which is produced also based on Sentinel-3 at 300 meters. Burnt areas is another essential climate variable, and so this data can be used in combination with models to estimate the biogenic emissions of CO2, methane, or aerosols. So the second group of biophysical parameters is on snow, and Joanna will continue with the presentation of the snow data.
Yes. The snow products, we have actually recently updated our portfolio. There will be new products coming. There is an update of the products that we had, and there will be also the full reprocessing of the archive coming, so there are also some novelties here. So first, the snow cover fraction that helps us to monitor snow cover extent. This is the fraction of a snow in percentage per pixel. Here we have different daily products in high resolution fractional snow cover with 20 meters and gap fill fractional snow cover in 60 meters, the products on the left, that are based on Sentinel-2 and Sentinel-1 data. And then we have also lower resolution data, 1 kilometer, that are produced for Northern Hemisphere based on VIRS and Sentinel-3, and half a kilometer produced for Europe with MODIS data. So these variables help us to monitor climate change impacts, the essential climate variable, and they can serve as input for land surface models, hydrological models, but also, for instance, for hydropower management. Then we also have two products that allow us to monitor snow state. We have wet dry snow and SAR wet snow with a 60-meter resolution. This gives us information about wet snow, dry snow, snow-free or patchy snow areas. So they help us to monitor snow dynamics, and they can also serve as input for hydrological and snow models, but also for instance for avalanche forecasting. And the new product that is coming, snow phenology, duration, onset, and meltout. This will come in Q3 this year and will be available in different resolution, 20, 60, 100 meter produced yearly. So will give us information about the longest period of snow covered as days per hydrological year, and then the start of this the period and the end of this period date. So this will help us to monitor annual characteristic of the snow cover, and could be an input for climate change studies or analyzing frequent extreme weather events.
at global scale, not at North Hemisphere scale, we have the snow water equivalent product, which is available at 5 kilometers every day, that provides the exact amount of water contained by the snowpack, and this parameter is quite useful for hydrological models, specifically for those forecasting floods and avalanches. And now we will continue with the third group, which is temperature. And in temperature, the main product is the land surface temperature from the geostationary satellites. So we have LST data at 5 kilometers every hour. And based on this product, we have two derived data sets, one every 10 days. One is the temperature daily cycle, and another one is the thermal condition index, which provides information on the stress on vegetation due to the extreme temperature. So land surface temperature is another essential climate variable, so this data can be used together with ambient air temperature to monitor the global warming. And we have also the equivalent for water, for lakes, in this case, the lake surface water temperature, in this case produced by the Polar Orbiting Satellite for Sentinel-3, so every 10 days. And the main application of this one is to monitor the particular effects of global warming in lake ecosystems. The fourth group of biogeophysical parameters is soil moisture. And here we have two main products, one at 1 kilometer at European level, which provides both surface soil moisture and the surface water index at 8 soil depths. And then we have another one at global scale, which provides only the surface water index at 12.5 kilometers. And all these soil moisture products are used to monitor the surface energy budget, the hydrological cycle, and the agricultural productivity. And the final group of biogeophysical parameters are water bodies. So at global scale, we have the historical products. Then we have our current operational products are based on Sentinel-2 and are available at 100 and 300 meters. But here the main novelty is that during this year, the Copernicus Land Monitoring Service will update the Global Surface Water Explorer, or GSWE, another acronym, that will offer information about water bodies at 30 meters since 1984 by exploiting the Landsat satellites. So regarding the applications, water bodies is another dataset that is used as an input in multiple models, from hydrology models to land models, and is also a parameter needed to monitor climate change, in particularly to monitor how the number of droughts and the number of floods are evolving in time.
And in the pan-European context, we have different water layers. There is a water and wetness layer that was produced for reference year 2015 and 18 with information about permanent, temporary water and wetness. But there will be new products coming. In Q3 this year, we will have high-resolution water layer with 10-meter resolution, updated every 3 years. It will provide 7-yearly aggregated information on permanent water and temporary water. This is this product in the middle. And then there will be also water cover duration that, similarly for the snow cover duration, will give us information about surface water occurrence as number of days per hydrological year. And these all products can help us to monitor presence of open water surfaces and the duration, and they can serve as input for hydrological monitoring, water management, but also for flood or drought risk assessment. Then we also have some ice products, river and lake ice extent products. In pan-European context, we have two high-resolution products, water and ice cover, a raster product, and aggregated version of it available as vector database that has been updated just recently. So these give us information about snow-covered or snow-free ice on hydrographic networks of river and lakes that are provided by our other product, EU Hydro. And for the Northern Hemisphere, we have a 500-meter product produced daily, and also 250-meter product produced for Europe that are providing information on ice on lakes. So these products are monitoring climate change impacts and lake ecosystems and can serve as input for hydrometeorological centers for ice condition, but also for hydropower providers, for shipping industry, and others. And then similarly to others, water, snow, and now we have ice, there will be also a layer for ice cover duration that will give us ice cover days for each pixel in the European inland waters. The use cases for it will be probably hydrological monitoring and forecasting agencies, research, and water management.
We also have a product on lake water quality. Indeed, we have two now currently operational, one based on Sentinel-3 that provides information at global scale at 300 meters, and another one based on Sentinel-2, focused on Europe at 100 meters. They provide information on turbidity, total suspended matter, chlorophyll, the trophic stake index, and floating cyanobacteria. And all these variables are essential to monitor the lake ecosystems and different EU water quality regulations. And our last biogeophysical product is on the water level on lakes and rivers. Compared to the previous products, this is not a raster dataset. This provides information at some specific points of some rivers and some lakes that are called virtual stations. And here you can see, for instance, the time series in one of these virtual stations of points of interest. And this data, one of the applications is that it can be assimilated into hydrological models to, for instance, improve the forecasting of floods. And now Joanna will continue with the last category of our portfolio, which is the second to last category of our portfolio, which is the ground motion monitoring.
Yes, there are plenty, too many products. European Ground Motion Service. This is the product that we produce for Europe with 20-meter resolution with yearly updates based solely on radar Sentinel-1 data. So this product monitors ground movements across Europe with millimeter of precision. And here I included two examples, Wieliczka salt mine. You can actually see this red color. It means there is a subsidence. It's probably caused by groundwater that is circulating in the underground salt layer, and it's eroding it. And on top of it, we also have the empty chambers, which also create this movement. And on the right, there is Centrum Konferencyjne Fabryczne, where we also can see just few points with some subsidence observed, probably because these are quite new buildings, so we can still observe some movements. So this product is very useful for assessment of the likelihood of natural hazards, such as landslide or subsidence, but also for analysis of urban infrastructure. And finally, our last category of products, reference and validation data. Finishing with EU Hydro, this is our vector product that is a hydrographic reference data set for Europe. We have version 1 available with 1 hectare minimum mapping unit, and you can see the example on the left. But currently we are actually updating this product to version 2 that we expect it to have in Q2 2026. And this will be actually a family of different products, not only vector, but also raster. You can see the example of this diagram where we have different layers, for instance, the flow direction, accumulation, the water bodies, the artificial structure, the coastline as a standalone product. So the very exciting update is coming. And this product will serve as input for water resource management, environmental protection, infrastructure planning, risk assessment, climate change studies, but also as input for our CLMS products, as is happening already now.
And our last product is the ground-based observations for validation of GBOB, which provides ground information from different in situ networks all over the world, as you can see in the right map. The GBOB offers two types of data. One is called reference measurement, or RM, which is basically the raw data collected at the ground at the in-situ stations. And then we also have the land products, which is this ground data upscaled to the satellite resolution to improve the accuracy of the validation. So basically the main purpose, the main application of the GBOB data is to validate our biogeophysical parameters, in particular the vegetation parameters such as leaf area index, FA par and F cover, the large surface temperature, and the soil moisture. And so we have arrived to the end. So I would like to thank you. We would like to thank you all for your attention. I don't know if we will have time for questions, but in any case, we will be available during the marketplace session to answer to all your questions in detail. Thank you.
I would say thank you, Joanna and Ruben. We have time for two questions. You did it very rapidly, although it was a very long series. They really put some speed behind it. Does anybody have questions for Joanna or Ruben? Yes.
Tom Hengel, Open Job, the Netherlands. How do we give you feedback for the, what we think are the product gaps? Like I tried using the soil moisture, eventually gave up to coarse resolution. You have almost no data on terrain or lithology or geology. So how do we give you feedback? How do we help you prioritize next generation products?
I think there is a Copernicus user forum where we're listening to feedback, but also you're always welcome to write to us, to our help desk service. But today is, I think, very good opportunity to talk to us and give us feedback. So you are very welcome to talk to us during the break or marketplace.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, indeed, and I'll make some publicity in an hour or so for the marketplace. So we'll come back to that. Any other questions? No? Yes? Yes, there is a question over there.
Hi, nice to meet you. My name is Jaime Ortega from Copernicus Land, Chile. I saw in your last picture there's no stations in South America or in Latin America. Is there any possibility to in the previous one, in this map, there is no station in South America and Latin America. There is any possibility to advance with this to station that region?
Yeah.
I can quickly take that. That would, of course, be great to expand the network. So to really, make this calibration validation more precise, more relevant. It's of course also a matter of budget because more and more validation, networks connected means also that we have to put more time, money, and effort into it. But certainly, it's a bit of a black dot there, and it's good you mention it, and we should, we should open it up for that. Thanks.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Joanna and Ruben. And you can, of course, still ask them questions whenever you cross them. We are almost at the break. We will have a coffee where you can, of course, talk to the other participants or to the people showing their posters. And for that, I would like to give you a small appetizer before the coffee. Must be good. And the presenters of the posters will receive 2 minutes. It's not a lot, I know. 2 minutes to pitch their poster and to make some publicity for you to go to their stand. I have a list of names. I have 11 names. I don't know from which organization, but we will see. So I'll just go one by one. And the first one on my list is Agata Oschiwo. Is she here? Yes. So, floor is yours.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Agata Hościło. I'm representing the Institute of Environmental Protection, National Research Institute in Poland. I would like to present you our approach towards the tree species classification and also the mapping of forest decline. It's a part of using the Sentinel-2 images. It's a part of the scientific project which aims to understand the relationship between the climate change and forest decline that we are observing in Poland, but also in Europe in general. And we are working at the local, regional, and national scale. So please grab your coffee and come and listen to us, and we will explain you. It's a half of just the beginning of our poster. It's much longer. So thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Agata. Next, I have Ana Maria Souza. Where is Anna?
Thank you. Urban Atlas. Urban Atlas was designed to monitor, to understand, and to manage urban environments across Europe. It gives us detailed insights into urban expansion and land use changes. And our suite of products includes land cover and land use layers, building block height, and I would like to say that I saw someone wrote that the 3D dimension is missing. It is not. We have a product mapping the height of the building in functional urban areas. We've been doing this since 2006, and one major innovation is that we are now integrating information about what is public and what is private within the green urban area class, and this is an essential distinction for assessing urban livability in the cities, and it will also feed, hopefully, into SDG indicator 11.7.1. So we are working with our service providers to update the data sets for 21 and 24. We make use of Sentinel-2 time series and very high resolution data, so the contributing missions, and the two together enable us to have a more efficient change mapping exercise that we cut from 6 to 3 years. So we believe that this suite of products is critical resource to support smart, sustainable urban development in our rapidly changing world. So stay tuned for the product launch. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Then next I have Camila Gomez and Francisca Gutierrez. I don't know if you will both come. Yes.
Okay, so hi, first of all, good afternoon. It's quite an honor to be here. So I'm Camila Gomez, and with Francisca Gutierrez, we both work at the Regional Center, Copernicus Land Chile, and we are in charge of the projects of the land cover map and the urban atlas, respectively. So this center provides different services, and among them are these two maps, and the idea is that we give them a local approach by using local data and trying to solve regional problems. So in this poster in particular, we're showing two approaches or AI approaches we took to try to do these maps this year. There's already an update, there's already a version of the map online. And this year, we're trying to improve it. We will be publishing this map in the second semester. So if you want to know how these AI approaches went, you can come and talk to us. And I hope that was a good trailer with no spoilers, but we can talk about how it was, this new idea of an AI approach to do the land cover and urban atlas. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. No spoilers, so the rest you will learn outside. Christophe Sagnier.
Okay, so if you want to know more about the CLC Plus backbone, come and see us just during the break. So just CLC Plus backbone is really the new data set for land cover covering the whole of Europe without, providing sort of harmonized products across borders, and with a 10-meter resolution, 10-meter spatial resolution for the spatial, for the raster product, and 11 thematic land cover classes, and really complements the traditional Korean land cover data set with much higher resolution and also much higher temporal resolution, because it's updated every 2 years from 2018, 2021, 2023 now. And there is actually, it's not just the raster product, there is also a vector product, which is only available for 2018, where the information is then aggregated for landscape objects and allows quite a number of analysis. One of the main advantages of CLC Plus is that it can serve quite a large number of applications, and one of a good example is, for instance, for LULUCF reporting as part of the CLC Plus instances. So come and see us during the session. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Then I have on my list Daniel Paluba.
Hello everyone, I am Daniel Paluba. I am from the Charles University in Prague in Czech Republic, and with my colleagues from the European Space Agency, we prepared a poster regarding a tool to generate multimodal or multi-source time series in Google Earth Engine, which includes both optical and SAR data, and also topographic and meteorological data, while also including a land cover layer in the data. In the first part of the poster, as you can see on the top, we first present the tool, which can be used for various machine learning purposes or other purposes as well. And then we present 2 case studies, where in the first case study, we were aiming to explore the relationship between the SAR, optical, meteorological, and topographical information, while aiming to find the optimal SAR parametric parameters of forest monitoring in Czechia. And in the second case study, we try to estimate optical vegetation indices and biophysical parameters using SAR data and other ancillary data through machine learning purposes. So stop by and learn more about these approaches and the tool. So thank you.
Thanks a lot. Then we have Eva Poglic.
That's not the right poster.
Not the right poster? Not the right poster.
I can't say much about this one. Yes.
Irini Politi, sorry, excuse me. Yeah, my bad. I skipped. But please stay here, so I'll keep you company. Irini Politi.
Well, I'm not Irini Politi.
That was not my fault.
No, it's not your fault, no. Sorry, Irini can't come, so you have to live with me. I'm Carsten Brockmann. As you can see, this is about water, and water is so important. Without water, many of the land products you have seen would not exist. Water is of utmost importance for life. Surface waters serve as drink water supply, food resource, recreation. They're important for biodiversity, and they're a sensitive indicator for climate change effects. CLMS provides up-to-date information on our lake water quality and lake water surface temperature, among, as you have seen before, other water parameters. So these products are produced at global scale, at different spatial resolutions, and as a long time series, as well as up-to-date information. And we provide them to water managers, monitoring agencies, and the general public. This poster is not about technique. It's about use cases and how the Copernicus inland water products are used and contribute to water management, lake restoration, health, and SDG reporting. If you want to know how they are taken up, come and visit our poster. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Carsten. It's I just wanted coffee too badly. Eva Poglic.
Hi everyone, thank you very much. I'm happy to see my poster here. I'm Eva Poglic. I'm from GeoVille, and I will give you a little bit intro to the application of the HRL imperviousness. Well, probably most of you are familiar with the product because it's been quite a stable part of the Copernicus portfolio since 2026. However, maybe some of you may not know that in terms of application, apart from a lot of application for the urban planning and so on, it's also very helpful and useful for in context of common agriculture policy and area monitoring system. So this, as you may know, I mean, this is now a mandatory procedure for all EU member states as of January 2023, basically to use the satellite data and track and assess the agricultural practices and activities and assess the data accordingly. And this is exactly where the imperviousness product comes in place because based on the imperviousness density data set, we train, also basically the product is used as an input for training and for the AI models to accurately detect the sealed and build-up areas. And this is then very handy for farmers and also EU institutions to identify which areas are actually eligible and not eligible for the CAP direct payments and for the regulatory compliance. So if you want to know more, please stop by at the poster. I will be very happy to give you more intro and more information about it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Now I have Jeff Smith.
Thank you. I probably don't need to tell everyone here that grasslands are a very important part of our ecosystems and environment, and they provide a major home for biodiversity, sources of food production, and a centre for lots of ecosystem services. And when we think about Earth observation, it seems the obvious tool to actually use Earth observation to monitor grasslands. But when we look at the scale of the amount of data we have available and the processing that's required when you're maybe monitoring just quite a small site, then that's quite challenging for the majority of users. So what we've been doing is developing a service called EU Grassland Watch, where we are able to supply processed information to people in insights. I often say within a few clicks of getting onto the site, you can then start to extract information. This little screenshot from our poster here kind of gives some of the products that we deliver. So for each of 16,000 Natura 2000 sites, we do a land cover map. We provide information also on grassland types, productivity and management, and they can then be combined in a user-specific fashion. We allow the users to then combine them to answer the questions they want. And this service, which will become live later this year, will then be available as a free and open service run by DG Environment. So you'll then be able to go find your local Natura 2000 site, click on it and examine the information for the parcels of land within it. But also it has a time series going back to the mid-1990s, so at the establishment of the Natura 2000 site network. So you'll then be able to track changes over time and then assess the impact of management practices or changing climate variables, etc. So it doesn't look much from this screenshot, but there's a lot more we can tell you if you come to our poster. And we also have stickers, so if anyone wants a really cool sticker, then please come along and say hello to us. Thank you.
Okay, that's a good teaser. And then I would welcome to the floor Ines Ruiz.
Yes, sorry, else you won't hear me. I don't have stickers, and I'm not going to present anything of CLMS. So, yeah, why am I here? Because I'm presenting a bit of the in situ part, which is another component of Copernicus. And I'm going to present at a poster the Copernicus in situ component information system. What is this? This is a system that is accessible and free to every one of you. You can open it, you can screen it, you have the QR there, you also have it on the poster. And it is a brand new product that we have opened some months ago, and it gives a clear, up-to-date picture of all the data that is being used in every single Copernicus project and product. That means that it doesn't matter if it's CLMS, if it's security, if it's emergency, you can go there and see what kind of data do we use for each product. It doesn't mean you can download it there, but you can see what it's being used. Like the example we have at the poster, you will see it for the backbone that has been largely mentioned here, and that I really love that project. And there you will see the kind of data that has been used for the production, which are the data providers, where the data comes from, like for example, the Icelandic snow coverage, or the COSE in Spain that has been largely used by all of us for many other products. In emergency, you also have a lot of information that has been used for each and every one of the different systems and services. So really, it's very interesting for all the data providers to see what their data is being used for any person using the products to understand what kind of data has been used as in situ and reference data. And it's really useful for all of you. It's also really useful for all of us that you understand what kind of data we use to produce the products, because maybe you can come up with ideas like, hey, you're not using my data, and it's really useful. And that could also be very good to us. So please come by, and we will give you some indications on some ways to get into it. Thank you.
Thanks, Ines. And then I have Javier Becer. I hope I pronounced that more or less okay.
Hello, everyone. My name is Javier Becerra from Cotesa, and I'm on behalf of a big team, so as a project manager. So I'm going to talk about the protected areas layer, which was mentioned before. We are producing this layer for 2021 and 2024, as well as for the changes between these 3 years. We are covering all the Natura 2000 sites for the first time, more than 700,000 square kilometers in Europe, also UK. As a novel workflow, we aim to apply a semi-automatic workflow where we are using super resolved Sentinel-2 imagery monthly mosaic. As well, we are using CLMS layers communicating between each other to extract training points to fit deep learning models based on temporal resolution. Based on these two predictors and points, we train models adapted to each bioregion at the European level, and we obtain a 2.5 per 2.5 raster result, which in the end, after the post-processing, we obtain the vector layer, which is most of it automatic, let's call it like that. But since we're covering 59 classes, we are manually refining some difficult classes. So since it's pretty automatic, we are obtaining more reproducibility, more objectivity within the layer, which is important for the end users as well. And this is important because this could be a backbone for experts on these endangered sites. And this, for example, could be used for reporting Natura 2000 sites at a regional or national level. So if you have any question, do not hesitate to stop by and ask. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. And then we have the last pitch session of today is from Kirsika Heinila.
So, good afternoon. Unfortunately, Kirsikka wasn't sure if she's going to make it, so I'm presenting. My name is Karl Lois. I come from the Finnish Met Institute. I will give a brief overview on Copernicus Global Land Monitoring Service and the cryosphere component. So we are producing near real-time daily products on snow water equivalent, snow cover extent, and lake ice extent. And we are actually expanding this service quite a bit in the very near future. So going from Northern Hemisphere to global scale on both lake ice extent and snow cover extent. An additional feature I'll mention, previous to this service, a lot of the snow cover extent datasets came from the US, and if they will turn off their data streams one day, we now have a state-of-the-art service from Copernicus, and we have shown that these are some of the state-of-the-art algorithms, methods used for estimating the snow cover extent and snow water equivalent. We will be at the poster giving you information about the expansion of these data sets to global level and how they can be applied in different end-use cases. That's all. I will let you enjoy your coffees. See you at the posters.
Thank you. So indeed, it's time for coffee. Thanks to the discipline of all the speakers, you will have 3 minutes more of coffee break. But let's keep to the schedule, and we reconvene at 20 to 5, so 16:40. Please enjoy the coffee, and please grab the opportunity to talk to many of the producers of the products of CLMS. See you then. Okay, we are about to start, almost. So please take your seats. I was going to say, look at the slide. There is a link to the annual survey. It's gone already. There it is. So there is the annual survey still open. There is the hashtag that you can still use to post your photos as well of the event, which was, if I remember well, hashtag CLMSGA 2025. Is that correct? Or of course you can scan the QR code outside at the social media screen. So I'm going to silently introduce it. We're back with a milestone moment in the CLMS journey, which is the launch of the global land cover product, the new one, because you will obviously say we have one already, that's true, but you will learn all about it in the next session. And to present this launch, we welcome Fred Stolle, the Deputy Director of the Forest Program at the World Resources Institute. Fred has been instrumental in shaping data-driven approaches to land and forest monitoring globally. So please, Fred, the floor is yours. Please welcome Fred to the stage.
Thank you all for being here. Thank you for having me here. The real part comes after me. So what I do is setting up the stage, like why is it so important that we're going to have this new data service? And so I often start with this quote from the late E.O. Wilson, a famous biologist. And the few important parts, what are very important, like what's important is, the data is important, but we have to synthesize the data and get it at the right information at the right time. And that is part where satellite data is so important. And then, of course, the last one, the decision makers, we are feeding the information to choose wisely. Well, that last part, I think if I see the situation in the world, it's not entirely happening, but that's what we're trying to do. And I think that's what we have on our plate as people who work in this environment, to make sure that we have that information that comes from the satellite, is beamed down, and we make that useful for decision makers. And I think that's an enormous part of our world that we're living in. Now, I have three major parts here. Thinking about the world that is changing so fast and why we need land cover data so needed, and why satellite data is so important. You see, most of my information comes from satellite data because it's spatial, it's timely. And then a little part of why satellites, why now, and then a few of the things what's coming and what's happening already, and I think what even accelerates the use of data, the use of satellite data, and also the fun of actually having the satellite data in the hands of non-geospatial persons. So to start it off, the world is changing. Cannot turn. Just see what the world, and I just look at the last few years, what's happening. If you see there's so much change happening in the land cover. This was last year, 2024, Amazon, a loss of fire. And we see everywhere around the world more land cover fires. This happened in New York. This is Tower 1, the former plaza where the memorial is. Enormous fires in Canada, and a lot of this kind of burned area where you see. So a lot of impact on humans this had. And so again, land cover, we see climate impacting land cover, land impacting climate, and impact on people. In DC, where I lived, it was only a spectacular sunset. So for us, it was good, but in New York, less so. Something else that happens because of change, there's more land available. There's more than 9 million of hectares more land in Greenland available. Maybe that's why it's so useful now. But there's a lot of land more. And so since the last 30, 40 years, there's much more land. So it's something we can use or not use. But again, a lot of change is happening in these last years. even, this was just last year in the news. It's like you have to think about boundaries because some of the snow and ice is gone. So a lot of happening, and then it's just a magnificent picture. That's why it's here. But the only part is to say that climate and land and people are constantly influence each other. In the study here, and this is in the Western US, more than 30% of the weather patterns influenced by land cover. You have more trees, it's a different land cover. We all know that, but it was a great way of looking at it. It is so part of all the stuff that we do. It's like the land cover is so much fundamental in what we want and what we need to do and need to study. If you talk about land, we have around 13 billion hectares. Of course, you all knew those numbers. 1/3 is forest, 1/3 is grassland, 1/5 is croplands, and then you have the rest here. Urban, of course, very small area. Now, just to show, because there are people who think that grassland is the biggest area. This is just a definitional issue. Open forest can also be called a grassland, or a savanna is a grassland or a forest. So don't look at exact numbers, but that's where we are playing with. This is the dynamic that we have. Forest goes to grassland, goes to croplands, or goes to urban areas. And if you see what that looks like, here is the 13 million hectares we call Earth. And because I throw so much numbers out, just to have an idea when I say like, okay, this is the size of Poland, that's around 30 million hectares. France, the biggest in the EU, over 50, and the whole EU is around 400 million hectares. This is all rounded numbers, but just so when I throw out the number, say, hey, 9 million hectares was changed in Greenland, that's kind of the size of Portugal. So that's it's a lot of change happening. The 3 biggest countries in the world, of course, China, US, over a billion exactly hectare, in Russia. So then you go into the really big numbers, but I'll use one of those. So when we look about the Earth, and we have these models of what is happening now over the next 20, 30 years, we have an enormous population growth, plus 40%. It's decreasing, but it's still happening. And so we're going to maybe around to be 10 billion in the year 2050. We have crop demand. Of course, we need to feed everybody. Over 50%, we need to have more crops. Then we have to have more demand of beef and lamb. Diets are shifting. Diets shifting in the West, but diets also shifting in Africa and Asia, where there's more beef demand. And especially beef, I come back to that, is very important. It's a big driver. And then, of course, meats, other meats, chicken and dairy, and then, of course, also wood products, and they're all increasing. So we need more land. We need at least 120 million hectares of more of urban area. And I'll come back to that again with satellite data. You'll see where that is happening. We need more than 400 million hectares of expansion of agricultural land, and pasture especially. That is the size of the EU. That's a huge amount. If you really, these numbers, these are modeled numbers, so no one trusts the model, but it's in the right direction. And then, of course, expansion of croplands. Cropland is much more efficient, so around 200 million hectares to feed everybody. So there's a lot of pressure on the world and on the land cover, and I think it's our task here all, as well as decision makers, as satellite data, as intermediates, to trying to find out how do we make sure that the land cover, land use is sustainable. So in the tropics, it even goes faster than land cover change. In the early 2000s, most agriculture production was still in the global west, global north, whatever you want to call that. In the year 2020, that flipped. We are now halfway in 2018. Now there's more agriculture output in the tropics. More cacao, more dairy, more coffee. So there's a lot of change happening, and it's often happening in forested lands. And so the change is happening very fast in tropical countries. I said I come back to the beef, producing different agriculture outputs. You see that, corn, maize, needs half a square meter to produce 1,000 calories. Cows needs almost 100 square meter. So it's very used in Brazil, as well in eastern Texas, to have a cow per square kilometer. So it's very inefficient. And I said before, there's a lot of demand for cows and for beef meat. So it's a lot of changes happening, and it's also therefore the biggest drivers of deforestation are cows and grasslands. And that's, and somebody said it before, why grasslands are so important. Grassland is one of the biggest drivers of deforestation. But you see also other commodities, these are commodities also part of the EU regulations, and that's why these are the biggest drivers of land cover change in the world. So what kind of changes do we see? Over the last 20 years, 800 million hectares, so that's twice the EU, has changed in land cover. And what were the changes? So this is data that we used on the Landsat. And you see this short veg. It's a weird category, but that means everything which is not forest. There are some trees, maybe. There are some shrubs. There are some grasslands. We couldn't distinguish, so we call it all short veg. But what you see, a lot of short vegetation went to crop, because we need to have more crop. And a lot of forest went to kind of grassland types. That's what the model said, and that's what we see over the last 20 years has happened. And this is because it's satellite data, we can see that per country, per continent, per district. And I think that's important where satellite data come in, and that's also what was said at the beginning by the director of JRC. The satellite data is timely, it's important, it's really decision-making data. If we see this is still the same data global, that every continent tells a different story. Here you see Africa, and you see the biggest part. Africa has an enormous increase in croplands. The population is increasing fast. We think that in 2015, the most people will live in Africa. Crop yield is unfortunately low, so there's an enormous expansion of cropland in Africa. Southeast Asia, you see something very different, and I hope you see the build-up area. There's an enormous increase in population, an enormous area of build-up area, and you'll see it in a map soon. And then Europe, compared to the other continents, so much happening. Actually, we get an increase in forest. So this you see per continent, and that's what my point here is basically that by having satellite data, you can look at this data. You don't have a statistic number. You can actually look at different countries, different trajectories. This is 2020, but you can also take a few countries, years in between, and find out what happened there and what is the trajectory of different countries. To see again the map, because hey, that's why we're here for, map peeps. Cropland data, 2000, 2020 again. I said that cropland has increased, and it has, but it didn't in the Russian Federation. There's a decrease in people in cropland. Might be socioeconomic, people go to cities, but an incredible increase, South America, soy, and an incredible increase in Africa, what I said before. And you see those areas very much increasing at a very rapid rate. Back to the land cover data. These changes are happening only partly because people eating the crops. It is in only a few countries, well, the entire continent of Africa and in India, people actually eat what they have on their fields. In many other areas, the US, Europe, they actually export the data or they use it in something else. Of course, biofuel is a big one, or export or in chemicals. And so what happens here in South America, zooming in Mato Grosso, the orange color is soy. Year 2000, year 2020, all the grasslands have been converted to soy. Now, soy used to be produced for Brazil itself, for their own cattle industry. 2004 data about supply chains. So produced in Brazil and actually used in Brazil. 15 million tons. In 2020, it's 150 million tons, 10 times increased, and it almost all goes to China for chicken, pork, and beef feed. So the impact that the supply chains have nowadays is enormous. What happens in South America is partly determined by how we have our consumption patterns in other countries in a very far distant world. If you look at China, again, looking at the land cover data, looking at the lowlands of China, And again, we look at what I said before. In Southeast Asia, there's an enormous boom in build-up area. The year 2000, and look at the pink color, and 2020. You know, half the cropland is away because it's increased all build-up area. All these things to show the world is changing fast. It's a lot to do with land cover. It has impact on land cover, impact on the supply chain. What we eat is what we have somewhere else is happening. And so satellites are incredibly useful to actually see this and understand what's happening and look at mitigation. And why satellites and why now? That is even more important. First, having the data. If you look at forest data, the FAO, the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, very early understood that data is important. 1948, they published the first data on how much forest is there in the world. No one was doing that yet. FAO did it. And they kept doing that. And this year, in 2025, I think will be the 2025 data out. So having the data to understand what's going on is like, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. You know, another wise words you often see. But if you think about policy relevant data, they produce these data, or they did produce the data in like tables. And that was okay, but you see in those tables that the countries have to fill in those tables, and some countries just every year for 30 years, they fill in exactly the same number. And that is not because the country is doing a bad job. I mean, if you think about DRC, half the country is at war. You cannot do a survey there. But so when I think about data, policy relevant data, this data is not policy ready data yet. Now, just to go back to the FAO, they're doing every remote sensing exercise for this year, so it will be a mix of statistic and remote sensing. Very interesting what it will be. That will be, I think, one of the new big forest data we'll get this year. But the point is that that's not, for me, policy-ready data, and that's why satellites are so important. If you think about this data, this is Peru. There is a national park here, and every week you see here change happening. Illegal roads, illegal logging. Here you can actually, in 4 weeks, this is, I think, the whole span of this time series, you can actually see what's happening. You can send somebody there. You can find out what law enforcement need to do or whatever, but you can see it happening now. That is the power of satellite. You can see the size. You can see the roads, even if that's where you want to do something. And this was indeed illegal logging. There was an airplane in the neighborhood that made a nice picture of all these trucks. Congo Basin, Wageningen University, radar alerts, you know, look to clouds and you see the logging happening here. Again, every week, every 5 days, you see this image. That is where policy relevant data should be and what satellite data is so important for. Last one here, you know, this is global loss of forest. Every year you can look at annual change and you see what's happening around the world. You can do the thing in global, you can do it per country, but you have a long time series. This is from 2000 onwards. And there is 2024 data, but unfortunately it's still embargoed until tomorrow morning. But it's not good news for the forest. And so you have this data, and that's all from satellite data that we can do that, and because the satellite data is open. And that is, I think, an important part, and that is where Copernicus is here such an important part. In the US, this date is very important because it was the date that the White House, USGS, and NASA decided to make Landsat data open and available. That made suddenly the data from the science realm to actually the boardroom. This was such an important that before this date, around 50 scenes were looked at. After that date, 5,000 scenes were looked at. I myself worked with some Japanese satellite, GRS, the Japanese radar satellite, and it had around, they did an evaluation, around 1,000 scenes were taken. They looked in the archive, like less than 30 were ever looked at. And it was partly because you have to send in a fax, you have to find out what it is. It didn't work that way. Now this open and available, you had to pay before $4,000 per scene. Now you can pipe in the entire part of the satellite archive for nothing. And so that is incredible change that we have seen. The US also did a lot of investment, you know, in the Eros data center. that sound much more exciting than it really is. It is in South Dakota, but it is that center that gets all the Landsat data, collects them all, and have them all that you can pipe them to whatever you want and easy accessible. This USGS center has been a lot of investment, but was incredibly useful that everybody can get that data for free, how much you want. So that was an enormous investment, but very useful. They also produce analysis-ready data from the Landsat. That is top of atmosphere corrected, that is geo-corrected, it's tiled. So a lot of people, you don't have to do remote sensing from the whole part, the same that Copernicus does. You can just get the data and do whatever you want from already very stable analysis data. Of course, ESA has the same. 2017, they opened everything. You know, the Copernicus made Open Sentinel 1 and 2, and then again, that made a complete revolution. And just to see what the data we can get now, and this is, we did a sampling exercise in Brazil, in the Para, and you just look at every satellite data you ever found in this area, in that one pixel there. You could see the entire track from 2000 to now on Landsat, and we'll see in the future that we also can look at the pictures, you can look at really what is the pixel happening here. You can go really at the month if you can get the data. Some are cloudy. And then you can even get the Sentinel data. And then you can even have the Google Earth data to really find what happened in my pixel. That transparency of data, that the data is open and available, has made such a difference. I mean, I said before to a colleague, like, when we did the PhD, we bought 3 satellite images for $5,000 each, and that's where you did your PhD on. Now you can actually get all this data, and you can do so much more. Those time series are so enormous. I think the power for this satellite data and also make it directly available is huge. Another example where they did 200,000 samples in Africa, and did visual interpretation from high-resolution satellite, all open and available, and they found around 500 million hectare more forest. That has never been counted before because it is such an open forest. So that was part of why satellites, why now, because it's open and available. We have so much more on our hands what we can actually use very quickly, and also very quickly assess it and get it to the decision makers. Now, there is this divide between, of course, science and what decision makers want. The science perceives it slow, has to test it, come back and test it again, quality control, and the decision maker needs it now and doesn't want to have it tomorrow. And that is a difficult. We have to live with that, and we have to build the bridges with it. So if we develop data, we should also really start thinking about who is going to use it, and why are they using it, and what do they need. And I think there's a great example is here, the EU regulation on deforestation. They made a map, the rule, no deforestation in tropical countries for 5 commodities if they export to the EU. And they asked JRC to develop the map. And JRC, the Joint Research Center, developed that map in a year time. And this was such a good example where policy and science worked together. They used all the data and information they got, and they made this happen. And this is now a map that is a policy-relevant map. They ask, what is your policy? What do you actually need to have in that map? And they made that map in a very short time. So I think this is an example where those two worked very well together. And I think that's an example for all of us. So if I think about the revolutions that we're seeing here, analysis-ready data, that you don't have to be an expert remote sensing on clouds and correction, but you can use the data and you can directly gonna make something from it as a conservationist. Right. Policy relevant data, what I just talked about the JRC, but other groups, be in discussion directly with what is the policy, what do policy people want. If you can make it, doesn't mean you should do it, because maybe the policy is not interested in deforestation, but only on deforestation it's caused by expansion of urban area. So that is have to focus on. And that is it's a big area I find where we sometimes have great data, but no one did ask for us that data. So policy relevant is a big one. We get new hardware all the time. Of course, we get the new hyperspectral, we get the new biomass from green. That will be great new data. I don't think we need to go always higher resolution and better. Like for forestry, do you need 10 centimeter? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it's good enough to have 10 meters. But it's coming, and we always have to think about, again, what kind of policy relevant, or is it a science instrument? Are we still in the science phase? Are we in the policy phase? I think remote sensing has, over the course of the years, often overpromised, because there wasn't open and available data. And I think now we have to be very careful not to overpromise, but be ready when the policy-ready data is there, that then we have to really make it sure it's going to happen. An example, there was two of the revolutions. Other revolutions see there's much more AI used. This is Makuena country in Kenya, and you see this is very dispersed landscape with a lot of little trees, very difficult to monitor from Landsat or Sentinel. I see, it's not there, that's what I thought. But actually, we used an algorithm that we got, an AI algorithm from the cancer research, where they actually scan lungs if they find anomalies. And that worked very well on these kind of landscapes. So an AI algorithm from a very different part used in that landscape. And I think it's going to happen more and more. AI will be used in so much more form to get actually these data. New private investment is happening. Two quick examples. Of course, this is happening, although it had stopped now. Norway and BASE is not funding anymore the 5-meter tropical data. But NASA has done a great research study where they used 30 centimeter data, and they could do that 30 centimeter data for the entire area because it was funded by the US government, and it was funded by they could use also all kind of satellite data which were free and available by the US government, so a lot of 30 centimeter data. If they would have had to buy the data, it would have cost $1 billion. But the data was all US Gov. So, which is good that they used it. It's also a bit of a warning, like, if this costs $1 billion data, can you actually replicate it? Or should we think about replicate, or is it just a science experiment? And again, I come back to policy relevant or not. It's great to have this. Do we need it? I don't know, maybe. It was a great research, and it was University of Denmark together with NASA did this, and it was good results. Google is working with dynamic worlds. You know, this is their data, which every Sentinel image that comes in is directly classified in these categories for further development. Meta, former Facebook, also spent $500 million. They have the money, they have satellite data, and looked at global 1-meter tree cover height data. And so these private sector information with lots of money, they can do that because they can buy the archive from high resolution data. So, and they made it sometimes freely available if that's allowed. And so we could work with them and so actually make this development of this map. This is the model, what's so big was the model that only Meta could run it. So the other revolutions here, we get some new hardware. I think we're getting much new AI for analysis. It's happening more and more. And then we have large corporations who can actually help us sometimes, but also sometimes, like, if that costs $1 billion, it's probably not useful for us to use because that's not what a country can pay every year for looking at their area. The last big change I think that we'll see and that we're seeing already is that actually the use of large language models to find data and actually collect data. If we see just before the break, we saw there's all this new data in Copernicus, an enormous amount of data, but it's difficult to find. Now, with the new AIs, you can just click on this, you say like, okay, what do you want to see? I want to see an area somewhere in about key biodiversity areas. Where do you want to see it? Oh, somewhere in Bolivia. What kind of data do you have? Well, this is the data you have. And this is all from a simple kind of chat GPT-like. They can find this data, you can develop those agents, they get the data, and this is what we have developed for our work to get the data more retrievable, findable. And so this is where you don't have to be a geospatial analyst anymore to get the data. As we say, this data is so simple, children and the ministers can use it. And so this is what you want to have, that people, it's out of our realm, they can bring it to decision makers and they can make the graph and the data that they want. And I think that's a very frightening thing somewhere, because do they understand the geospatial data behind it, but also very powerful. So that's the last revolution here, I think. Some negative parts, what's happening in our world. You all heard about the issues in the US, likely a $6 billion reduction for NASA, and they have like 25 billion a year. We don't know yet, it's not public, it was a news article, don't know what's happened. And when I said before, we always hope the decision makers should choose wisely. Well, that's not always happening, I'm afraid. Anyhow, to come to the end of here, to have satellite data from raw data to actually policy relevant data is we have the satellite data, we can see it per country, per area, per polygon. That is so important. That is satellite, I think, what is. It's timely, it's spatial, it's radiometric, it's all there. We have organizations here, CLMS, EROS Data Center, who make that available, and that transparency of data, I think, that is sometimes overlooked how important that is. And my last slide, turning satellite pixels into decisions. Earth observation is important, it's time and accessible, and I think Europe has a leadership to play here with Copernicus and ESA, which currently the US is a bit lacking. Well, who knows what happens in politics, but turning pixels into policy power, I think that's our task, and I think that's happening currently, and I think will happen also in the talk after it. That's all for me.
Thank you so much, Fred. That was really, really interesting and insightful, and not boring for 1 millisecond. I don't know, I could take one question now. Is there somebody who has a question for Fred? If not, don't hesitate to ask him after the session. No? Yes, Peter.
Thanks. Very inspiring. One question, because with all this data arrives, of course, also all that ease, handling data, getting data, arrives one major risk, and that is fake data. So how do you see the risk of a data swamp in which it will basically in the end be no longer possible to identify what is really reliable and what is not reliable data?
Thanks, and that's a very difficult question. I have made data swamps in my time. I thought everybody wanted to have this data. I made a whole database, and after a year, no one ever looked at it. So that is one thing. If you have too much information, people can't find the information. Fake information is very difficult, and let me go from fake to less accurate. As a colleague of mine once said, I translate it in nicer language, everybody can make a map, very few people can make a good map. And so there is a translation from us, from scientists, towards policymaker to say, like, what is accuracy acceptable? What is, maybe you have to look twice at this. And that will be, and if I show this AI, it's something we are grappling with too, like, when do we say, like, no, if 50% accurate, you cannot show that anymore. That's too fake. And where do you put that? I think that is in the next years, we have to figure that out. And do you need stamps of approval? Saying like, okay, this is approved by ESA as okay data. And I think that's what we all search. When we go online, we all search. If you go to medical information, you go to a reputable source. You don't go just type it in like, hey, I have weird feet, what's happening? You get a lot of misinformation. And I think that will happening with this too. You go to a few organizations, you know they are right. But I think that will be a struggle in the next years.
Thanks a lot for that insight. Then with the last speaker of today, at least at this main stage, we end, and this is a presentation that many people are looking forward to, I think. So Andreas, it's all yours.
Good, thank you. Indeed, really a lot of very relevant and important messages from Fred. And yeah, the world is changing fast, definitely. And we need to monitor it very accurately and timely to be policy relevant. So there are so many keywords. I really, really like this. But before I start really with our new LCFM, the Land Cover and Forest Monitoring product, let's turn the wheel of time a little bit back. GRC 2000. How many of you remember this? I hope not too many, because it would mean we are just a bunch of old guys, but at least a few hands, that's good. So this was quite a big step at that time. Global land cover map for the year 2000 based on spot vegetation data, 1 kilometer data, has been used so many times. It was also just after the famous Baveno conference, 1998, where somehow the vision of Copernicus was framed. Since then, a lot happened. A lot of iterations, a lot of research, a lot of products at global, regional, of course, national scales. And it took a while before we in the land service came to this. But this is our current Copernicus Land Monitoring global land cover map at 100 meter based on Sentinel-3 data for the years you can see 2015 to 2019. Not only a pure land cover map, but also this continuous layers, fraction layers. So from tree cover from 0 to 100%. So users could really kind of fine-tune the type of legends and application they wanted. But still, this is still quite a static map. Every year produced, but single maps. And the world, as Fred was saying, is really changing very fast. We need to be able to track fast changes, for example, in forest where there is illegal type of deforestation happening. But not only that, and yes, these are some of my pictures. I had to use them, I'm sorry. But for example, coming back to trees, in some areas in the world, like in the high mountains, like in high altitudes, latitudes, like in Scandinavia or in Siberia, many months a year, the forests are covered by snow. But still we classify them just as tree cover without really looking into this period of snow cover. And I think it's really relevant to be able to monitor these dynamics over the forest. On the other hand, also in the hot areas, in the dry and hyper-arid areas, we often classify them just as bare or very sparse vegetation. But in fact, we often miss to monitor this vegetation period, which is actually happening there and is very relevant for the ecosystem and for the people living in these areas. Furthermore, with the resolution we had so far within Copernicus 100 meter, we reached often, let's say, the minimum requirement standards for many applications within, what CEOs required, what some of the SDGs required. But we miss to detect these complex landscapes, which we often have around the world. We miss to detect this mixture of, croplands, different type of farmlands, pastures, and also we miss to detect the different densities of tree covers, from very high density to more open type of landscapes and tree cover. For this, we need higher resolution and higher temporal resolution. And the same for river, lakes, water reservoirs. They are not, a static layer. They are highly dynamic around the world. And how do we classify them? Do we just use the maximum extent, the average over a year, or how do we do? So I think it's really critical for this type of information to have something more dynamic. And this is what we are trying now to produce within the new land cover forest monitoring layer. So it's the new land product at global scale, but as my director already said, it's really relevant from global to local. You're able to address in the same way global reporting. At the same time, a country is able to really use it for land management purposes. And this because it's at 10 meter and because it has a, not only yearly updates, but it has a high temporal resolution. And why is that? So as you can see here, we have the annual land cover map. We start from 2020 ongoing because we had the 100 meter until 2019. But then before we have this monthly so-called land surface feature and land surface categories. And even more, we will move into 10-day or even near real-time information. So land surface features are basically the global Sentinel-2 mosaics. And I think even more interesting are these land surface categories, which are the basic land cover features, like it could be the snow cover, for example, it could be water, it could be vegetation, non-vegetation, and so on. And this, we really see this, the pulse of the earth. If we are able to show, like every 10 days, how these features are changing. Beyond that, we have a specific tree cover density product over the pantropical areas. And also here, of course, the tree cover present change. Interesting then is that we make available also all this training data. Of course, such a product and very innovative product is really based on the latest technology in terms of machine learning, AI, and so on. And for this, key is really training data, which we really have to use to train and run the models. We make this available because we are Copernicus. It's public money, and I think this is really relevant for downstream applications in using, for example, this land surface categories, and a user can from that create his further or her further downstream applications. Good. Having said that, this is really in a nutshell what will be released. But where's the map? You may ask. So this is the map. This is the first global land cover 2020 at 10 meter resolution with the 11 classes which you can see here. And this one here is the pantropical tree cover density for 2020. It's there. It's not really out yet because we are really fine-tuning to get the really the data as good as it can get, but it will come very soon. Let's zoom in a little bit on a specific area, and yeah, this is one of my favorite areas, the Virunga area, which I was lucky to visit some years ago. A very dynamic, a very diverse area. You can really have it all there, from high mountains, snow cover, to bare rocks, to the really tropical forests, to grasslands, wetlands, lakes, croplands, everything. So really tricky and challenging to map. But I'm really happy what we have here. For this area, we actually have also one of our hotspot land cover data sets, which are very detailed for the specific areas. And I had a first just visual look, and I'm really convinced and happy what I see here. So it's an excellent work. And the same for the tree cover density layer. So you can really see in this kind of 10% steps how the tree cover density changes in this region. Let's zoom in a little bit more on it's not a big town. This is actually a fairly small town, Malambo, which buildings, not very high density buildings. There's some green areas in between, but not really trees. Not high buildings. You see kind of a gallery forest going through, where there's certainly some water hiding behind this trees. A big road, another road there in the north. And I think, yeah, we picked really very accurately what we see on this high-resolution image. So you can really see in the middle this gallery forest. Also the roads, the major roads are depicted really well. And the same, you know, we can see where there's some tree cover in this urban area and where not. So, you know, we are already envisioning in the future with such type of information we could map green spaces in urban areas more accurately. Of course, not a single tree, but you know, when you have parks and this type of features at a global scale. And in fact, you know, I flew over this little city a few years ago, and this is really how it looks like. This is at the border of the town, and you have these small houses, some green patches with a few trees, and which we actually depict on the border. So really, I'm quite happy what we have. Good. Well, this got stuck now. No, here we are. Good. Let's come already to the conclusion. I really believe that we are going beyond the classic land cover and land cover change mapping, what we had so far. We can really address from global to local, for global reporting, for the various conventions to the SDGs, but also down in a really harmonized way to more local applications. And I think this is important, to have this hierarchical system. Not that suddenly we use global maps for global reporting and national maps for more local reporting, and they don't match, we get really different figures. So this is quite unique, I would say. So we are not only improving what we have now, the 100 meter, we are continuing the 100 meter because of continuity purposes. But what is really key, and what I think is really this shift in paradigm, is this temporal resolution, that we will provide these fundamental classes at the monthly and 10 daily temporal resolution. And this is really a game changer for many applications, I would say. And also the specific tropical layer with very high accurate, with all these different type of densities, I think is quite unique for several applications. Training data set available to the user community. And last but not least, all distributed through the Copernicus data space ecosystem. We have heard this morning that we are live there. So the data set will be distributed there, of course, as well. So as I mentioned already, so I really think that this layer is a very fundamental layer for a lot of downstream services and applications, for a lot of reporting purposes. As such, it is not policy ready there. You need, of course, to do some work, but it's definitely policy relevant. So about the release, we will first release the land cover map 2020 at 10 meter, global scale, and the tree cover density, for the pan-tropical layer. When will this happen? Stay tuned. It will come very soon. In the next, weeks, months, we are really ready. We are doing the fine-tuning. Even the, onboarding on the CADSD of such a big data set really takes some time. It's not something you do in a day. So these are the final steps we are doing. But we are really there, and I'm really excited that we are able now to have this data set. And also I would really like to thank the entire team that is working on this. Thank you so much, and join us at the marketplace. They are the experts there. They are the colleagues really producing on this. So we are there to then collect any questions. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Andreas. I think many people are looking forward now and will check the social media every day. But I think there are a lot of questions. Is that correct? Is there anybody? I can take one. If not, okay, no questions. You're very lucky. But of course, Andreas will be there at the marketplace, and that's immediately the last thing I want to tell you today. So to wrap up today's main session, I will briefly introduce you to the marketplace, a dedicated space for interaction, networking, and showcasing innovation. Some of you already know it from last time. It will take place right after this session in the Harmonia room. So if you are upstairs, you will see one room with the name Harmonia. I think there is a display as well which says Marketplace. So I invite you to go and meet the service providers, project leads, and data experts who are all contributing to the evolution of CLMS. So that will take place right after this one until, now I have to look, until 18:45, so 6:45. But I also warmly invite you to our networking reception and dinner, which will take place here in the foyer. And that will start around 6 o'clock. Don't all rush out of the marketplace to grab food and drinks, but don't hesitate to go out, fetch something, and go back to discuss further. The marketplace will stay open until 18:45. The conference area here will stay open until 20:30. Please make sure to take all your personal belongings by that time, because after that the venue closes and the doors are locked. Also, and now this is new news coming in on my tablet, if you want to read more about the hotspots like the one about Virunga that Andreas mentioned, you can take home the booklet you probably saw on tables. Have a read and enjoy the beautiful pictures along with their descriptions and insights. So, I think that's all I had to say. Enjoy the marketplace, enjoy the discussions, enjoy the dinner, and see you tomorrow at this place at 9 o'clock. Good evening.